The warning the world ignored. His country was burning behind him. His soldiers were dead or scattered. His people were being poisoned from the sky. His ancient throne had been stolen, and the nations of the world who had promised to protect him had turned their backs and walked away. Any other man would have given up. Any other man would have hidden in shame. But Haile Selassie did something braver than any battle. He walked alone into a room full of the most powerful nations on earth, the same nations that had abandoned him, and he looked them in the eyes, and he told them the truth about themselves. And the words he spoke that day would echo for the next 100 years. Let us go back a little to understand just how much he had lost. The Italian army, with its tanks and its planes and its clouds of poison gas, had pushed deeper and deeper into Ethiopia. Town after town fell, and finally the enemy reached the capital city, Addis Ababa. The emperor knew the city could not be saved, and so with a broken heart he made his choice. He would not stay and die quietly in a lost city. He would leave and take Ethiopia's cry for help to the whole world. So Haile Selassie left his homeland. He traveled far away across the sea, all the way to a city in Europe called Geneva, because in Geneva was the great meeting hall of the League of Nations, that club of countries who had all promised to protect one another from bullies. And the emperor was going to walk in there and remind them of their promise to their faces. Now think about how strange and powerful this moment was. Here was an African emperor from an ancient kingdom who had just been invaded by a cruel European power, and instead of picking up a spear, he picked up his voice. He came not with an army, but with the truth. He came to stand in the house of the powerful nations and ask a simple question. You made a promise. Will you keep it, or was it all a lie? The day arrived. The great hall was full. Ambassadors and reporters from all over the world were there, and in walked the small, dignified figure of Haile Selassie in his dark cloak, calm and quiet. But not everyone was there to listen with respect. Sitting in that hall were some Italian journalists, men loyal to Mussolini, and as the emperor stood up to speak, these men began to shout. They jeered, they whistled, they tried to drown him out and shame him and stop him from speaking at all. It was a disgraceful scene. This proud man whose country was being destroyed, whose people were being gassed, was being heckled like a clown while he tried to speak. But the emperor did not shout back. He did not lose his temper. He simply stood there, calm, patient, and waited. The noisy men were removed from the hall, and then, at last, there was silence. And in that silence, Haile Selassie began to speak. He did not beg, he did not cry. In a steady, quiet, powerful voice, he told the nations of the world exactly what Italy had done to his people. He told them about the bombs. He told them about the poison gas falling from the sky onto villages and children. He described the horror with such calm honesty that the whole room went still. And then he reminded them of their promise. He reminded them that they had all sworn to protect a member nation from attack. Ethiopia was a member. Ethiopia had been attacked. So where were they? Where was the help they had promised? And then he said the words that would never be forgotten. He warned them. He told them that this was not just about Ethiopia. He said that if the powerful nations allowed a bully to swallow a peaceful country today and did nothing, then they were opening the door to their own destruction. He warned them that the same evil they were ignoring in Africa would one day come for them in Europe, in their own homes. It is us today. It will be you tomorrow.
He looked at the powerful people in the world, and he told them plainly, if you do not stand up to this now while you still can, then you will face it later when it is far bigger and far too strong to stop. He said that the very survival of their promise, the survival of the idea that nations could protect one another, was being tested right now in this room by what they chose to do about Ethiopia. And then he was finished, and he waited to see what the world would do. The world clapped. They clapped for his courage. They wrote about him in the newspapers. They called him brave and dignified. For a little while, this quiet African emperor was famous all over the earth, admired by millions. But when it came to actually helping him, they did nothing. The powerful nations decided it was not worth angering Mussolini. It was easier to look away. So they let it happen. They let Italy keep Ethiopia. Some of them even quietly accepted that Ethiopia now belonged to Italy, as if the promise had never been made at all. Haile Selassie had been right about everything, and it did not matter. He had told the truth, and the world had chosen not to listen. And so the emperor with no throne and no country went into exile. He went to live quietly in a town in England, in a modest house, far from the mountains of his home. An emperor without an empire, a king in a borrowed land, waiting, hoping, praying for the day he could go back. It must have felt like the end. But here's the thing about the warning he gave in Geneva. It came true. Because that dangerous man, Mussolini, was not the only hungry ruler in Europe. In Germany, there was another one, an even eviler man with an even bigger and darker dream, and he had been watching. He had seen the whole world let Mussolini get away with invading Ethiopia. He had seen that the powerful nations would make promises and then break them out of fear. And it taught him a lesson. It taught him that the bullies could take whatever they wanted, and no one would truly stop them. So he began to take, a piece here, a country there, and each time the world looked away, hoping the trouble would just go somewhere else, exactly as they had looked away from Ethiopia, until they could look away no longer. Because now it all exploded into the most terrible war the world had ever seen, a war that swallowed up those very same powerful nations who had sat in that hall and ignored the quiet emperor, a war that killed millions upon millions of people, the Second World War. Everything Haile Selassie warned them about, every single word, came true. The evil they refused to stop in Africa grew and grew until it came crashing down on their own heads, just as he said it would. It is us today. It will be you tomorrow. Tomorrow had come. And now, with the whole world at war, everything changed, because now Italy was on the side of the great evil, and that meant Italy was suddenly the enemy of the very same powerful nations that had abandoned Ethiopia. And those nations suddenly remembered a certain exiled emperor living quietly in England, an emperor who knew Ethiopia better than anyone alive, an emperor whose people still loved him and were still fighting the Italians in the mountains, refusing to give up, an emperor who could help them strike back from the heart of Africa. Suddenly, the world was interested in Haile Selassie again. And deep in the hills of occupied Ethiopia, his people had never stopped resisting. They had never accepted the invaders. Brave fighters called the Patriots had kept up the fight for years, hiding in the mountains, striking at the Italians, and whispering to one another a single stubborn hope. The emperor will come back. One day he will come back to us. And that day was finally coming. To be continued in Part 4. Don't go anywhere, because in part 4, the exiled emperor is going to return home in triumph. He is going to win back his stolen throne, and he is going to rise up to become one of the most famous and respected leaders in the entire world. But far away on an island across the ocean, something strange and unbelievable is about to happen. A whole group of people are going to begin to worship him as a living God.